Oklahoma got a huge shape back win over Tennessee. They blew the top off Rocky Top. They keep their playoff hopes alive. Brent Venables had this Sooners defense playing like a bunch of maniacs against Tennessee. I mean, they were swarming all over the field. This was probably the worst offensive performance that Tennessee has had all season long. They put 40 on Georgia. They were getting right with Alabama, but they just couldn't find a way to get a lick of offense against one of the best defenses in college football. You talking about an Oklahoma defense that has a ball hawking secondary. They have an elite pass rush. They know how to generate a lot of havoc plays. They know how to not just get your quarterback on the ground, but they also know how to cause a lot of chaos for you in the run game with how their defensive line does a really good job of penetrating and getting in the backfield. We finally were able to see Oklahoma play complimentary football. This wasn't a game that Oklahoma won solely due to great defense. The offense finally woke up for a change, and they were able to run the football. 192 rushing yards. This is Oklahoma's best outing running the football up to this point this season. And if Oklahoma can continue to sustain this level of success running the football and playing good defense like how they did against Tennessee, they can beat Alabama. They actually are a mismatch for Alabama in terms of Alabama's weaknesses. Oklahoma has a quarterback that's really good running the ball, which is what Alabama struggles to stop. They struggle against dual threat quarterbacks. We saw that against Pavia somewhat. We saw them struggle against Missouri when they had a healthy Bo Pabula. So if Oklahoma gets that ground game going along with John Mateer, and this defense continues to play the way that they have, they can beat Alabama, and they can win out and find themselves in the college football playoffs. This is still a playoff caliber football team, and they just won a playoff elimination game. Tennessee, their season is over. And Tennessee, I didn't expect for them to be in the playoffs this year. I felt this was going to be a rebuild season for them, but they have overexceeded my expectations and a lot of other people's expectations. I thought that they would just be a 7-8 win football team, but they still are on pace to win 9 games. They'll make it to a decent bowl game and get the 10. And next year, that's when you can see the Vols right back in the playoff conversation, possibly competing for the SEC championship. Josh Heupel has done a really good job at building up this Tennessee program, and I don't think they're too far away from being able to call themselves a national title contender. I think that with the amount of parity that we have in the SEC, you're not going to see the same teams at the top of this conference making it to the playoffs every single year. You'll have a few years when Georgia and Alabama may slip up and they may only win 8-9 games and they could miss the playoffs. Same thing with Texas. Same thing with everybody else in this conference. But Oklahoma tonight, not only did they get a much-needed win, but Brent Venables, could you call this a career-defining game for him? Because if Oklahoma loses this game, then not only are you out of the playoff mix, but you now starting to have conversations about Brent Venables. How are you going to finish this season out? Are you just going to lose out and what looked to be a really promising season ends up ending in disappointment? And then you start having conversations about moving on from Brent Venables, maybe going after Josh Heupel, bringing him back home to the place that he led to a national championship game. Well, we're not having those discussions because Brent Venables got it done. And I always believed in Brent Venables. When you're in the SEC, you're liable to have a few dead seasons like how Oklahoma did last year. And if you don't have good quarterback play in this conference, you're not going to go that far, regardless of how good your defense is. And now with Oklahoma finally having some stable quarterback play with a decent offensive play caller, they're built to have sustainable success in this conference as long as they can continue to get these things right. Brent Venables can nail his quarterbacks. He can nail his offensive coordinator hires. You're looking at an Oklahoma program that some feel coming into this year were on pace to becoming the new Nebraska of the Big Ten. But as I said, in the SEC, if you have good quarterback play, then you're good enough to beat anybody in this conference, and you have a better shot finishing in the top half of this conference than what you would if you keep trying to win games like how Iowa wins games in the Big Ten. Last year's Oklahoma team is comparable to what Iowa has been in the Big Ten. They're all defense, don't care that much about quarterback, don't care that much about offense. Our defense is just going to carry us to wins, and there's just too much good quarterback play, too much high-level coaching in this conference to win that way. Oklahoma, they get a huge win. They keep their playoff hopes alive. And even if they do lose to Alabama, with how difficult their schedule is, they could make an argument that they deserve to be the first 3-loss team to get into the playoffs that gets the at-large bid, because it's all about who you play. Not all records are created equal. And Oklahoma hasn't just beaten some good SEC teams. They also beat Michigan, who looks to be one of the 5 best teams in the Big Ten. Oklahoma's schedule, their resume is as good as anybody, even with them possibly having a 3rd loss, whether that be against Alabama, LSU, or if they slip up against Missouri. I feel like they've already more than certified themselves as a team that deserves to be one of the 12 and when we get to playoff time.